Okay, so we got ourselves the top five WNBA finals of all time, and we start out with the 2004 WNBA finals between the Seattle Storm and the Connecticut Sun. So, when looking at it, I'm just excited to know that, you know, these type of finals really happened in WNBA history. Seattle was 20-14; they were second in the West. And they versed Connecticut, who was 18-16, first in the East. So the East Conference was definitely not, it wasn't strong. But regardless, game one, Connecticut won 68-64 on the backs of McWilliams Franklin with 10 points, 2 blocks, 4 steals, and 7 rebounds. Game two would go back to Seattle, where the Seattle Storm would win 67-65. Lennox had 27 points, and Lauren Jackson 15 points and 11 boards. Game three, back in Seattle there. Seattle won 74-60. Second quarter slash half of the second half, it was 24-37 in terms of the Seattle Storm there with the points. Lennox again killed it with 23 points, 2 steals, 2 assists, and 3 total rebounds. That was obviously a 3-game series back in the day, and the Seattle Storm, they would win their first ever WNBA championship. Number 4 in this countdown, we got the 2015 WNBA Finals between the Minnesota Lynx at 22-12, first in the West, versus the Indiana Fever at 20-14 and third in the East. For the Fever, they were chasing that WNBA title. Minnesota Lynx was a dynasty in the 2010s, so this was going to solidify their legacy. A lot of Hall of Fame players. Game 1, Indiana won 75-69. Breon January, 19 points, 2 steals, 6 assists, and 4 total rebounds for the guard. Amazing performance. Game 2, the Minnesota Lynx would win 77-71. Maya Moore had 19 points, 3 blocks, 4 steals, 5 assists, 8 total rebounds. She was everywhere on the floor. In Game 3, Minnesota won once again, 80-77. Maya Moore with 24 points, 2 steals, and 7 total rebounds. Game 4, must win. Indiana wins 75-69 in their home court. Johnson with 15 points, 2 steals, and 5 total rebounds, which brought up a pivotal Game 5, a must-win. The Lynx won, and it wasn't even close, 69-52 to the Indiana Fever. Third quarter was dominated by Minnesota, 21-8. Sylvia Fowles, the Hall of Famer, I believe this past year, she had 20 points and 11 total rebounds. She was one of the most imposing big women in the W and honestly across basketball. So overall, yeah, it's not a shocker because Minnesota was a dynasty. They were a threat. They could be in any franchise in terms of dynasty-wise, like they're there. But this was a team that they just outclassed Indiana, and overall, great series. Number 3, we're going to do the 1998 WNBA Finals, the second inaugural year for the WNBA. And this was definitely in the time of the first dynasty, and it's crazy how it was so early on for it to be a dynasty, but the Houston Comets did that. 4 straight WNBA Finals titles. That is insane. And I don't think any other sports, franchise has done that, man. So, maybe ever, or maybe in a long time. But, yeah, to do that in the 90 era, crazy. Looking like a Chicago Bull team for the WNBA. Houston was 27-3. They were first in the West, dominated the West. They were playing Phoenix, who was 19-11. They were second in the West, and apparently in this early on stage of the league, it wasn't really based on, conferences at all. It was just based on, head-to-head opponent, and they were able to get to the finals. It was a 3-game series. Game 1, Houston lost 54-51. Gillum had 15 points, 2 blocks, 10 total rebounds. Game 2, Houston came up 74-69 to stave off that elimination for them. 8-3 was the overtime scoreline there. Cooper, Swoops, and Thompson, the big 3, had 53 points, 2 blocks, 7 steals, 11 assists, and 26 total rebounds combined. And in the pivotal Game 3, Houston would go back-to-back here, 80-71. Swoops, 16 points, 2 blocks, 2 steals, 6 assists, and 5 total rebounds. Yeah, this was the start of, two 2 more titles for them. And yeah, Houston, the big three, definitely a huge game changer for basketball, for sports. Underrated, absolutely. Number 2, it's going to be the 2024 WNBA Finals between the New York Liberty and the Minnesota Lynx. For the New York Liberty, I mean, this was a team that got to, I believe, like 6 or 7 WNBA Finals and lost all of them. All of them, man. Unfortunately, that was the case. Fortunately, they got, they won big. They got Brandon Stewart in free agency, and they were able to sign some key pieces to try to make a title happen. And, even still, they still have a pretty great team. So, overall, this was a team that was starving for one. And then you're looking at the Minnesota Lynx dynasty team, just looking to get back on top once again. And so, what happens here? Well, in 2024, New York Liberty were 32-8. They were first in the East. They played first in the West, Minnesota at 30-10. So it was definitely an easy, predictable matchup for the both of them to meet in the finals. And looking at it, this was a 5-game series. Game 1 went to Minnesota 95-93. Collier, McBride, and Williams combined for 66 points. Game 2, New York Liberty won 80-66, not even close. Stewart had 21 points, 5 steals, 5 assists, and 9 total rebounds. In Game 3, New York won 80-77, with Stewart having 30 points, 4 blocks, and 11 total rebounds. Game 4, Minnesota will win 82-80. 5 Minnesota players had 10-plus points, having a Game 5 at the Garden, or the Barclays Center, sorry. But this was still, it was a matchup in New York. It was going to be loud. It was going to be hectic. They were trying to chase their number 1, their first WNBA championship, which they did get. They would win 67-62 against the Lynx. Overtime, 7-2 was the final there for the scoring sheet. Stewart didn't have the greatest performance, but man, when they needed her, she stepped up. She did her thing. 13 points, 3 blocks, and 15 total rebounds. So overall, yeah, magical performance, great series. New York Liberty with their first title. The best WNBA final series was the 2009 one between the Phoenix Suns and the Indiana Fever. The Mercury were 23-11, first in the West, while the Pacers, the Fever, were 22-12. I'm getting WNBA and NBA mixed up. I apologize. It is way too many teams at times. But Phoenix 23-11, first in the West. Indiana 22-12, first in the East. So again, pretty predictable matchup. Game 1, it would go to the Phoenix Mercury, 120-116. Douglas scoring 30 points, Hoffman scoring 27. Game 2, Indiana would take it, 93-84. Tamika Catchings, 19 points, 2 steals, 11 assists, 9 total rebounds. Game 3 would go to Indiana as well, 88-85. Catching with 14 points, 3 blocks, 4 steals, 7 assists, 12 total rebounds. She was incredible. Insane stat line. Game 4, Phoenix needed to win that. They did, 90-77. Pondexter with 22 points, 2 steals, 7 assists, and 5 total rebounds. And in Game 5, the Phoenix Mercury win 94-86, where Diana Taurasi, future Hall of Famer, legendary WNBA player, she had 26 points, 3 blocks, 4 assists, and 6 total rebounds. This was a really good WNBA Finals series. I believe this was definitely a lot closer, the closest one in terms of all of them. And all of them were definitely, there were no blowouts, so that's a great thing to see. But yeah, this was definitely the number 1 WNBA Finals of all time right now.